Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man!
All right, episode 21 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Eric from Wingfoot Screen Printing in Buffalo. Let's go!
Shirt show!
Oh, we got Buffalo? Is that one?
The Bills. I don't have any of the sweet leaf stuff or what
Oh, pure leaf. Come on.
Yeah.
What's in there?
I'm gonna crush your hopes at getting a sponsor.
I don't know. That's quite literally probably the best background we've ever seen.
I'll take it. We spent a lot of time when we weren't making any money doing shirts during COVID, redoing our shop. So
Is that how long did it take?
I mean, the month of April, I probably invoiced like 3 invoices. So basically all of April, we were just kind of working on the shop. But
Did you move or you just renovated everything?
we just renovated. We actually, the space behind me, that wasn't our space. That was actually our neighbors. So in December, we blew open the wall.
What is it with printers having to like take over their neighbor's space to put a Cobra in?
The neighbor's the landlord, so he was parking boats there for the winter.
Nice.
Changed it up, but we had the Diamondback there before the Cobra came in. So, we were prepping. We were hoping to get a 12 color, but we just didn't have the space, and we were good with a 10 color. So, I was back and forth with my sales rep, just trying to figure out, how big the machine was going to be because we didn't even know. Like there was no specs out there.
So
we were trying to figure out. Yes, trying to figure out so many things, and it just took a while. But we're happy with what we got.
How many colors was your Diamondback?
It was an 8 color. I had a Diamondback XL, so it was the bigger print 8 color.
I'll just chill here and have a sip of this fine beverage.
What's in your Bills cup?
I'm a water drinker. Sorry, nothing fun.
Are you all right? Now I got to ask you though, are you a room temperature water drinker or a cold water drinker?
Right now it's cold, but I don't mind either.
I can't do warm water. It's so weird.
I was a competitive runner through college and we had to drink water all the time. So we had like our water bottles walking around class all the time. You couldn't keep it cold at that point. So I just got used to drinking warm water and it was.
I have friends that like go to a restaurant and ask for like warm water. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's gross.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Never even heard of that. Not at a restaurant.
No lemon, please. Just make it warm.
Yeah. Can you just take it out of the toilet bowl for me? No ice. Thanks.
I mean, that's pretty cold. My dog loves it.
Mm.
So what's the vibe of the shop right now?
Right now, pretty slow because it's Sunday, but we've been cranking during the week.
You normally you never print on Sundays. I mean, or the weekends, I guess. You're just. I mean, how does
we try to shut down all weekends? Like I'm pretty big on family balance, so if I can be off Saturdays, Sundays, I want that for my employees. So we'll do some on-site event work that we'll be doing stuff on Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, but outside of that, it's probably like 5 or 6 weekends a year. Outside of that, we're doing nothing.
So tell us about how you got started, because there's not much to find about you on the internet. It seems like you just popped up. Yep. So I've been in business 20 years. I started right out of college. I actually started it in college. I was a track and cross country athlete. And when I was running, we didn't have any cool gear. So I just literally went to Walmart and got the iron-on transfer sheets and would use my inkjet printer and make shirts for me to go to meets in. And had a local coach at one point that was a single guy that just said, "Hey, I know about screen printing. You do some cool stuff." And I was somewhat friends with him. He said, "My basement's open. You want to start screen printing just for fun?" So we started a little business, and I ditched my degree and bought the business from I had 2 partners then. I bought the business from those guys, which was like $1,000 a piece. What was your degree going to be in?
Exercise science. So I was actually looking to go to med school or be a chiropractor or do something like that. And I figured.
And you dropped that to be a printer.
What's that?
And you dropped that dream to be a screen printer.
Yeah, but I mean, aren't we living the dream? Come on.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm just asking.
No, yeah, it was something that for a long time, my wife and I went back and forth. Should I go back to school or, this is just where we were led. So we're rolling.
That's awesome. So I guess after that, like what niche market were you in? You were after like sports teams and runner clubs?
Yeah, I mean, once I got out of college, I started coaching. So I coached at our local high school for 10 years. So got connected in with a lot of high schools, a lot of athletic directors. I'm still connected in with our high school governing body in this side of New York. So we do a lot of work for them. But very active in our church and active in other things in the community, a lot of nonprofits. So we do a lot of schools, a lot of churches, a lot of nonprofits. And then anybody else who comes in, we've actually, since COVID, we've done a whole lot more work with retailers. So, potentially, people that were printing, not printing anymore. And, we took some of the benefits of that and have a few customers that are rolling, doing a lot of printing. So
nice.
That's definitely helped us we're still, I would assume you're the same way in Binghamton where you guys events still aren't really rolling and a lot of school stuff is slow to get going. So it's sustaining us now, but when everything comes on, we, hopefully be kicking.
Yeah. Luckily that none of that's my market. Like I don't do much of any schools we do events, but like, it's more like festivals and stuff like that. But our bread and butter is just like other things. So we've been rolling, like we've been doing tons of stuff for like you said, like online retail stuff. And it's just a different world. And like, we've been talking about COVID stuff forever now, but it's like, I feel bad for the guys that everything just stopped. But we also had the discussion too of like I got a new piece of equipment this year. Andy got new stuff. So it kind of worked out with like installs and getting everything like tip top. So for you, it sounds like you had lots of time to get all your stuff together.
Yeah, it was probably June we started coming back on and a lot of people started coming back for stuff. But again, we had a lot of stuff that still isn't back. But when we picked up a couple of those retailers, they dropped a lot on us, which was really great. So once we got rolling. We're not big. I've got 4 employees or 3, me and 3 employees. And then my wife will come in on days and work the back of the dryer or do whatever needs to be done. Just to pick up when someone's not here.
Yeah. So are you just running the Cobra or do you have manuals or other options?
We've got a manual in the Cobra, but we try to stay off the manual.
Yeah. What made you get rid of the Diamondback completely?
I think Chris is your sales rep, right? Chris Tanner.
Yeah.
So, probably I've got a really good relationship with Chris. And probably almost 2 years ago now, I was just talking to him about the next upgrade. Mm-hmm. And telling them, hey, I wanted a press that was going to be flat indexing. I want the micros. I wanted something with better micros. I wanted, we were just talking about the wants and needs.
Right.
And
the wish list.
Hey, he was just like, hey man, just wait. Like I can't really, we don't really even know what's going on, but I've been told there's something coming out and it's coming. So just, hold on. So I've just been in contact with them, through the whole process. And our Diamondback it did its job, but we definitely had some issues with it. There was something with it that was just funky.
Did you sell that to get funding towards this one?
I did sell it. If we had the space, I would have kept it. I would have kept 2 presses, but we just don't have the space now. So the space, basically I'm sitting right next to our dryer, and I've got 900 square foot of production area that is just like moving shirt. The dryer goes through it, the manual's in it, and then we're just moving shirts around and putting everything where it needs to be. And then We've got the print room right there that is about 500 square feet.
Yeah, so you were fortunate you you could wait, and it was a long wait, I bet, because I was sort of the same way. I knew that this press was coming and I wanted to upgrade, but it wasn't there. And I a lot of times, actually many times thought, well, I'm just, fuck it. I'm just going to get the Gauntlet III. I can't wait any longer, but I don't know, just called them every, I don't know how many weeks, or emailed every few weeks and eventually got a kind of a date and I went up to Chicago and saw it. So glad I did, though. That's for sure. It was definitely worth it. What made you, like wait for the Cobra and not get a Gauntlet 3? Like I almost.
I mean, I didn't want.
I don't think a G3 would have fit in there.
The G3 wouldn't have fit, I don't think, because they don't have a small print area. It's all the bigger print areas.
Yeah.
I got a 16-18, and we're at the point right now playing with it that I think we can easily get a 19-inch print out of it. If we make it a couple adjustments, we can probably get a 20-inch print.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Are you talking about the flags on the back?
Flags. There's all sorts of little things that are adjustable.
You guys don't have 20/20 print area on those?
They do, but I got the 16-18, just one for space, and two, we don't print. We like never print anything over 20 inches. I think on the Diamondback, I really used the big print area like 3 times in 8 years. So it wasn't huge for us. The only thing that's different on this one is the Diamondback having the front or the side clamps. You could extend the print stroke so that the flood bar was literally hanging over the back of the screen. So you could get everything out of the screen. And on this one, it's a little bit different with the front back clamps, but we're figuring out ways to make it work. So
it's like when we were getting the G3, like they tell you, it's X amount of feet wide or whatever. And you're like, all right, you like kind of do some measurements. You're like, oh yeah, this will be fine. This will be fine. And then when it actually gets here and gets installed, you're like, this thing is so massive.
Before we opened up the space behind me, we were literally 2 feet from the wall, and we couldn't even get a flash into our chilies. We couldn't even roll it into every station. There were some stations that were like, well, we couldn't put it in there, so we're just going to have to move it over. Yeah. So we didn't want to be in that situation. So we wanted at least 10 color, and the 10 color 2020 would have been another foot bigger. And it just would have been, we decided let's, for 95%+ of our prints, it's not worth it to go up.
It just took a picture.
It took a picture of me.
It's awesome.
I was just talking to my kiddo. He's a printer too, and I was just talking to him about that very thing, like because he's going to get a new press, and he was trying to decide the shop he's at anyway.
You got to give a little bit of a story. Your kid's not at your shop; he's at his own shop.
Well, he's at his mother's shop, my ex's shop. Anyway, we were just talking about that whole 16x18 versus the 20x20. Like at our shop here, we don't print over 20 inches either, even though we have the 20x20. In fact, we don't print over tall wise. I hate printing over 16 because you've really got to have your shit together, because with registration, that is, if you're underbasing something and you're printing 18 inches, let's say, you have to have, your screens have to be a certain Newton, because otherwise you're going to have registration issues. The top to bottom.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. And so,
depends how you're printing. Are you printing with, do you guys print with a lot of pressure, or do you try to print real light?
Well, that now, since we have thin thread, we try to print really light, and we do much lighter. Yeah. But still, if you have a screen that has crummy tension, you're going to be pulling that mesh down. Yep. And when you go, it used to be anyway, when we had crummy tension screens, we go over 15 inches, we began to have problems. And so, if you're going to be printing large, then you have to, I would recommend, or maybe somebody knows, because we never do, but it's definitely a Newman roller situation.
Yeah.
We print 20 inches all the time. Well, like probably every day.
Okay, Dylan, not black ink 20 inches. Like,
no, I'm talking like we do like oversized 8 color prints like almost every single day. And every customer that wants those, it's always like 20 tall. So it's usually like 14.5 wide by 20 tall, which is like a comfortable, I don't want to even say comfortable, but it's like pretty much the max you want to print on like a small Gildan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when a band or somebody wants oversized comes in and says, that's what we want, that's what they're getting. It's 14.5 wide by 20 tall.
Yeah.
So how?
Are you guys super crazy with your tensions and stuff, or?
No.
Yeah.
All of this stuff just out of registration. That's all.
No, it's not out of registration. No, like we don't, and we've had this discussion a ton of times, but like I am just starting to buy screens from Frank because of Andy.
The F guy.
The F guy. Yes. But for years, all we've done is we've just used regular statics, no thin thread, just, 230s and 156 and stuff like that. But we go through them pretty quick. Like I don't let them age like really long. We're not using screens for like 2 years or anything. I'm trying to rotate them in like as often as possible. So we're getting them in, we're using them a bunch of times. When we start to see, a bunch of little issues with it or stains on it that we just can't get out anymore, we'll just toss it. Like, don't worry about it. Just getting more. But we have, 2536 screens, not 2331s.
For all your screens?
For oversized prints.
Just for oversized, yeah.
Yeah. So we're not dealing with prints being so close to the outside edges that we're having as many issues with like tension on the outside versus tension in the middle.
Yep.
So if we use a 2536, we have more, basically you're dealing with the same inner size print feel versus a 2331 for a smaller print.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, we don't have really any issues with it. I mean, every once in a while people have registration issues, but it's not a normal thing. It's if we have something that's like, we can't get this in registration or we can't bump this to fix this, then yeah, it's take that screen out, reburn, use another screen. But for the most part, it's usually just the standard, if you have an issue, it's, it wasn't tri-locked perfectly on the eye image or something, and all they have to do is, use the micros to fix it.
So I love that. That's great idea. However, we don't have any 25 by 36s. And how are you coding them, and how are you like eye imaging them?
We just have another pusher frame.
Okay.
So we have the step up pusher frame for the 2536, and then coding them, all we have to do on the Unicoat is pop the peg out and move it up to whatever the 36 instead of the 31.
I just hate the idea of having different size frames. I want all the same, Well,
we use the same 2331 for everything except for oversized prints. So we have literally like one, like your aluminum rack of screens. We just have one that's all oversized screens.
So we actually, when we were looking at what the capability of the 1618 can do, the 1618 will fit a 23 by 33 screen. So they build it like that, but you can't get them anywhere. So I was going to get a ton of 23 by 33 or, like a handful, maybe 12 with different mesh counts, so that if we needed to go, because at that point, I think we could get up to, we could probably get plus, over a 20-inch print.
Yeah.
With a couple little, mods during the print, while we're setting up.
I bet you Frank would. I bet you he'd build you. Like he makes his own racks and stuff like that. I bet you he can build you that frame.
Okay. Where's Frank from?
Chicago. I mean, it's not too far. Buffalo.
We actually get our frames out of Atlanta from Spot Color Supply right now. We do all mesh or S mesh. We've been S mesh for probably 6 years or so now. And what the other thing we do that probably no print shop anywhere does is we run every single squeegee with a double bevel. So our squeegees run straight up and down. We've got 2 different durometers of double bevels, and you can print fast and very light and get an awesome print stroke, get great white bases.
What the hell?
Wow.
Your audio
never heard it, right?
No, your audio just went crazy for a second.
Oh,
yeah.
Where'd you lose me?
No, we didn't lose you. We just heard you loud and clear.
Oh, geez. I didn't do anything.
Loud and unclear. No, so you were saying, so you have, it's like a double squeegee. What do you mean double bevel?
It's a double bevel. So there's a point. It's not a square.
Oh, you have the pointed ones.
It's the pointed squeegees. Yeah. So
I've seen those. I never tried them.
There was all sorts of things with the Diamondback that when I printed for like 12 years on a manual in my basement before I moved to my shop, so I moved out of the basement, to get the Diamondback. So when I got the Diamondback, it was so much easier for me to manually print than it was to go to the auto. So it took me like a few months to start feeling comfortable even moving over to the auto for jobs. But probably a couple years in, I was still having trouble with white bases. Had a double stroke all the time. And I did a lot of reading on the shirt board, and one of the guys on there was just like super into double bevels, and Joe Clark's, remember the old squeegee hat? I can't even remember what it's called. The Smiling Jack. Did you guys ever try one of those?
No, huh?
So it was basically a squared squeegee on one side and like a bevel squeegee on the other side. So you could flip it to do two different things. And I didn't have a whole lot of success with that. But when I went to the double bevel, it's just like my base whites came out so nice that I just started going to every color, and it's been awesome.
That was before you went to S-Mesh though.
So that was, I probably made the S-Mesh change right around the same time.
Okay.
Actually, no, I went to S-Mesh first, and I was always playing with whites and still was having problems with whites that I shouldn't have. Because I was always trying to also print with lower pressure. But probably 2 years into that, as I was, again, playing with different whites, trying to figure out which whites were better than others, that's when I went to the double bevel, and I just literally every screen it takes a variable out of the equation for us. So our squeegees are always straight up and down.
Where you get that your angle you're saying is just
squeegee angle, always straight up and down. Yeah. If it feels like we need a little bit more ink dropping on a top color, we might give it like a 2 degree, just a little 2 degree move. But
you remember Casey? You remember Andy? You remember Casey because you called him and tried to see if he wanted to come to your place from M&R. He's the one who usually runs M&R at the shows.
Yeah,
he's the one.
Disc golf man.
Yeah, he's the one that told me about those squeegees, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, they're amazing, especially for like whites."
Where do you get do you just buy the rubber? Where do you get it from?
Actually, the first ones I found were just on eBay. So I didn't even know what durometer was. They've got to be like 90 to 100 durometer, because we just got some 80 durometer in, and they're way softer. But
what pressure are you running on those?
On our whites, we typically, and again, with the Diamondback, it was very different of how it did its stroke. It was a lot slower. So having this for 3 weeks now, we're constantly making changes, but we're printing pretty fast, probably generally a 7 on the dial, and we're in the 35 to 40 range when we get going. And that's for our whites. And then our top colors, we want to be 30 to 35 usually. Sometimes we're dropping our top white at 25 PSI and super fast stroke.
Your top white, what mesh count are you putting that in? On S-Mesh also?
Everything. We have almost no S-Mesh here. So everything's pretty much S. Depending what we're playing with, we've got 110, 135, and 150 for our bases. So just depending on what we're trying to do, if we're doing halftones on the base, we'll usually go 150, sometimes 180. And then a lot of times on the top right now, we're going 180. So generally, if we played the middle game, it was generally a 135 base, 180 top white. And honestly, before not too long ago, we were running 180 to 225 bases and hot heading them. And then, running a 225 top and getting pretty bright whites. But I think we found that the hot head pushes down the ink so well that a 150 and a 225 don't even feel that different at the end of the dryer. Once you
are you using the iron or the roller?
The iron.
Yeah. Have you heard of a Stampinator?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I think it was last episode we were talking about a hothead. They
were telling you to buy that specifically.
Yeah. And they said to get the Stampinator. I don't know what it does exactly. I think it's irons it all at once. It's kind of like a heat press.
It's right?
I feel like it's it's basically a giant heat press, like a heat press that just goes in a head.
When you do both of you have hot head?
I do.
I don't. I want to buy 3. Yeah.
Dylan, do you have struggles if you're not putting enough adhesive down that it'll lift or?
No, I don't think we've ever had that happen. The only hiccup we've ever had with it is before we got our red chili Ds, we just had the regular red chili. And if we had something that wasn't flashed all the way, obviously when you use the hot head, it would pick up on the back of the Teflon. But
do you know what temps you're running that at?
200 at 35 PSI.
And then what's your flash before that?
It depends on the garment. We change it for almost every garment, but Yeah, we just leave it in the cool down station. Yep. And we just run it on almost everything. So it depends on the job. Like if we're doing like a sim process job or something, we won't use it.
But we're running it a lot hotter, and maybe I felt like when we first got it, we tried the low temps and it wasn't working, but we might need to go back to checking it out and, checking out the low temps and see how we
I think if it's just like warm enough, because basically you're coming right after the flash anyway. So the ink should be somewhat like, malleable, but just enough temp of it to keep it warm while it's going. It's just, all you're really looking to do is mat the fibers down. The thing is you don't want to have so much pressure and so much heat that you're like squishing the ink down and you're losing detail. Like if you have anything that has any kind of detail, if you're cranked on pressure or you're cranked on heat, I feel like you're just going to mush all those tiny lines together. And then you're going to have registration issues because you pushed it out further than it needed to be. And then white's going to poke out here and there. So we like it just light enough to where it's pushing all the fibers down. That's realistically, to me, it seems like now that we've had it for so long, and it's a no-brainer. It's like the biggest issues you see a lot of people with prints have, like on Facebook groups and stuff, like the younger guys are like, what's wrong with this? And it looks like, like 60 grit sandpaper. It's like, well, this eliminates all of that. And for us, it was like not, you can get a really good white on a t-shirt anyway. But like for us, the biggest difference was with hoodies, like just matting down every fiber before you even print on it. And it was just like, I feel like we've talked about this in enough episodes where like everybody's heard it by now, but I just feel like it's a no brainer if you can get it. It's not expensive either. So it's not taking up any other heads. It's in your cooldown station. So
and ours, I think our only issue with it was always just trying to figure out what those right temps are and pressure and, we just need to play with it. And, if we're going to use it, we usually just tack up the pallets pretty good before, but
honestly, Chris Tanner was the one who told me. And when I first got it, I asked him, I was like, hey, what's the recommended temp? And he was like 220 at 35. And that's pretty much what we've left it at since.
I think he told me the same thing. And I was like, dude, it doesn't work. So
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things. Like it's printer preference. You know what I mean? There's things all the time. Like we talk to shops and they're like, yeah, I won't use the Tri-Lock. Like I don't like to use it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't like to use it? Like you can register a whole job in minutes versus like an hour. Like there's just printers are so stuck in their ways that they don't want to change anything or do anything different. And I'm guilty of that with like other things, not print related, but
I'll tell you one thing about the Cobra, and I don't know what you guys feel on the, you with the Gauntlet or with the Sportsman's, but I definitely feel like because the pallet arms are so much stronger that there's no bend in it when you go to do the tri-locking. So if you could pull your screen into the tri-lock a little bit tighter and put a little bit more pressure on it and clamp it down, and you get a lot less movement. So I feel like we're tri-locking much better.
Yeah, we Tri-Lock better on the Cobra than both the Sportsman's, but we just tuned the Sportsman's, and so that's going to change up a little bit.
I feel like that's gonna help for sure, just the tune up.
But what's your favorite thing about the Cobra besides just Tri-Locking's better? What's your favorite?
I love the flat index. I love the speed. I love it's so quiet. Like the UI took a little bit to get used to because we had a 8-year-old black and white UI that you're just. We did a lot of printing pallets the first couple of days because how you turn off a pallet on the Diamondback was kind of like how you print if you print. So we think we were turning off a pallet and we'd be printing. So so we have our Sportsman, I think maybe has the same software because there's 2 circles. One is green or red and one is to print, right? It used to be anyway. And so you would go to turn off the head by hitting green to turning it to red on the Cobra anyway. On the Sportsman, that's how it works. But on the Cobra, you do that and it prints. And so ours actually we had like lines for the heads. So it was like boxes all the way across the screen for the heads. So we had a black and white display. So when you would tap it would turn it off. When you tap the head where it said H1, you tap it and turn it off. But on this one, you tap anything and it prints. So
it's weird as I go from if I print on the 8 and then I print on the 10 and then I print on the 12, maybe I do that in a day. Every once in a while that happens. it's exponentially harder. It's not just 2 heads harder as you grow to each press. There's so much more going on that 12 color, to keep track of. Yep. And it's the XL, so it's 20 by 20. It's just so big, and you can hardly see over to the other side. What's going on. And I have 3 flashes.
Takes like a half hour to walk around it when you're checking something.
I know, it's crazy. So it's not just it's just a little bit harder. Or I should say more complicated. It's just, you really have to pay attention.
That's what's funny, because like Randy runs the Gauntlet, and basically like his biggest complaint now that we have 16 stations is scrubbing pallets. He's just like, there's so many more.
we actually, when we don't do any spray tack in our shop. So even for hoodies, we don't run spray tack. So as the shirts come around, the unloader unloads and then grabs the sponge and water and quickly pulls the fleece or all the fuzz off. And then, it sticks really well going around the next time. So
when you say quickly, how long? What do you mean?
Exactly? We probably run on a 8 or 9 second, sometime a 10-second delay, index delay.
Just for hoodies?
Just for hoodies. So that we can flip it onto the dryer, turn just really 1 or 2 sprays of water. And then you just really quickly over the top of it. And it pulls all the lint off, and we don't. I'm huge in this health and safety. So all the stories when I started about guys getting cancer in their 50s and 60s or 40s, and because of what they were doing, and I hated spray tack. When I was running the business in college, we're down in the basement. I have like a big, huge meet coming up where I'm flying somewhere down south, and the day before we're trying to get a job done, and I'm like inhaling spray tack the whole time. So I pretty quickly I said like that we got to figure out another solution. So your fleece or hoodies, or I guess I should say your fleece method is you have a hothead, and so how do you run fleece? We run fleece. We actually don't usually hothead the fleece, but we're going to have to play around with the hothead settings, because we're usually running our hothead at 50 PSI. So we just might be pushing down too hard into the ink. But for fleece, the loader loads, comes around when it's coming off, literally pull it off, drop it on the dryer, 2 spritzes of water, take like a natural sponge all over the print area, pull off fleece. And by the time you're done, we've got a sweatshirt on the floor, and, all the fleeces. We never have any tackiness inside the fleece. I don't know if you pull stuff off and someone's using spray tack and all of a sudden you pull it off and the front's sticking to the back by the time it's out of the dryer. Sure. That stuff never happens. So it's definitely good. It gives us a workout, but I think we get a really nice.
No, if you're using water-based adhesive, usually after you scrub, you want to flash it to get it tacky again. You're having no issues with it. Just
the pallets are so hot. What happens is if you don't put too much water on, you're just sliding off the fleece,
just activating it slightly more,
and it kind of reactivates it. So you're actually if we're running our fleece and we decide to we have to run off the machine for some reason and start back up, we'll literally spray a couple sprays on. The unloader will spray even on the empty pallets and just reactivate it for the loader to throw the shirt on.
Right. Just a mist, right? Like you have a water
just a
bottle.
slight mist. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the difference, is like, if you're cleaning them, you're going to put on a decent amount of water, but you're just trying to get that one rotation's worth of lint off.
And that's all it is. And we keep it tacky, and we've had really good success for it. We've been doing it like that for probably about.
Is that the slogan for Wingfoot, is keep it tacky?
Keep it tacky. I mean, we got all sorts of slogans. I don't know if they're Zoom compatible.
How did you come up with the name? I guess it's track.
It's from track and field. We were Mercury screen printing when I got started. I created that wing logo, and I just loved the wing. And I didn't know what to call it. When I took it over myself, they didn't want to keep the name going. So it was just a track thing. I've talked about rebranding for like the last 10 years and just haven't done it.
It's funny because we do this live print for this local school, and we always do their like track event, and they always ask for the designs to have like the winged shoe.
Yeah.
They're like, you have that, like everybody wants that. And I'm like, are you sure? We've done this like so many years in a row. They're like, yeah, no, they love it. They love that.
Yeah. I've got like 10 different wing foots that I just keep putting into different, designs and logos when I do events.
Yeah. So whereabouts in Buffalo are you?
We are, we're technically in Cheektowaga. So we're right next to, we border up against, right against the city. So, I mean, if you know, do you know where New Buffalo is in Buffalo? Like, have you been up here?
I mean, I've been to Buffalo a ton of times, but I don't know where they are specifically.
Yeah, we're real close to the Galleria Mall, if you know where the mall is. But
we have a Galleria here in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, it's trendy.
You guys are basically brothers.
Yeah, what a coincidence. I saw that magnetic bar you have on Instagram way in the back. I guess it's in the back of your shop behind you right now. And does it hold your squeegees and flood bars?
It's not magnetic. It's so my buddy's in machine tools, and he's in machine shops all day, every day. So we always try to develop stuff, and he just comes back with something. So we, I don't know, you know, a lot of guys use it's an electrical like hanger that you can slide the squeegees and floods in. Have you ever seen those? It's like,
I think Juan has those.
Is that what he does?
Yeah. It's like a little piece of like,
it's like a channel with like loops on it.
Yeah. And it's made for putting up onto the ceiling, and then they hang lights off it and stuff.
It's like strut.
It's strut. It's actually, that's what it is. So we have strut connected to that metal, and we just slide them into strut. There's like 3 inches of strut.
It fits right into the strut.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
So it's a cool way to do it. They stay clean. The ink doesn't get all, like, even if we have ink on them, it doesn't get on anything else.
Why is it vertical though? Why is it up? Why is it like this?
We just figured, as we were trying to develop some way of doing it, it was the best way to save space and keep everything clean.
You'll have to get us a picture of it so that.
Yeah, we didn't want to hang something out away from the wall very far either. So, you know, if you've got a 16-inch squeegee and you're not trying to push it up against the wall, even if you give it an angle, you're still going to hang out in a foot and a half from the wall. So that way we just kept it tight to the wall.
See, now I was starting to talk about Buffalo, and you guys went right back into fucking screen printing. All right. We've had enough talk with screen printing. I don't want to talk about it anymore. How do you like your chicken wings?
I mean, generally medium and crispy.
Okay.
But I mean, we've got some pretty good joints around here that make some good sauces.
Not the Anchor Bar, right? Are you a guy that swears by the Anchor Bar?
I like Anchor Bar, but Bar Bill is probably the best. It's one of the best wings in Buffalo.
Yeah. We went to, last time we were in Buffalo, we're like, oh, we'll go to the Anchor Bar, because I've never been there. And I was like, oh, we'll go there. And they were all right. But like, I feel like they make so many wings a day in like a fryer or however they're making them, that they just tasted like fryer. They didn't taste like good chicken wings. And I was like, I'm kind of
Bar Bill Tavern. That's the place to go.
All right.
So they have,
I think we've tried like everything there. Every time we're there, we eat chicken wings. And I think we had Duff's last time. We had Anchor Bar and we had Duff's. I didn't think Duff's was that bad. But we don't have amazing chicken wing places where we are. So
yeah,
when you go up there, it's like you're expecting them to be amazing every time.
There's like a sweet Cajun honey butter barbecue that is just like, it's got a little sweet, a little hot, a little spice to it. That is killer at that place. So
yeah, no, I'm not adventurous. I'm usually like, I'll take like mild.
We get those for my kids.
I'm so slow that I didn't just now, for the first time in my life, realized that maybe and maybe not, chicken wings come from Buffalo originally. Is that real?
Yeah. The Anchor Bar is actually where they were supposedly
started.
Okay. I just thought they were called buffalo wings. I don't know why.
I mean, bison have big wings. That's why.
What inks are you running?
We're doing Wilflex PCs with Amazing Base.
That's what we were doing. We did that we're over 10 years.
Yeah. And we just got into that about a year ago. I was running all Union stock stuff, and I was just mixing stuff by eye. But I like every single ink in our shop, unless someone gave us something to try, is 300 degrees cure temp and under. So I'm real. So are you
using the Rio system then? We got
the PC system. We've got the Rio system. We've got both of them in house. And then some of our stock, like blacks, navies, we're still using Union.
Yeah.
Our white, we're generally using Quick White, but because Quick White, a lot of guys think it's a 320, but if you go on their site, it's actually a 300 cure. So, and what is the cure temp actually? We were just talking about it on Friday. They probably all actually cure at 300. They just want people to make sure that they, are fully cured. But as long as something says it's a 300 cure, we'll try it. And that's generally what we're doing.
Yeah.
We'll do discharge water based. So if we get a job for, white ink on a colored shirt that'll discharge, a lot of times I won't even tell the customer. I'll just pull it out, double stroke, and roll with it.
Yeah, no, we do that too. Usually, I don't know. I feel like depending on the customer, I usually just look at it because I know it's not their job to know. You know what I mean? They just want a cool print. Like they don't really, they're not coming to you and being like, I want plastisol, this specific Pantone. They're just like, just make my fucking print look cool. So that we generally just look at the design and we're like, yeah, like this is a shirt they ordered. Oh yeah, we can discharge it. Let's do discharge under base with the colors on top. They're going to love the feel. Or
love discharge under bases when we can do it.
Yeah, we do it a ton. It's nice because it basically makes every shirt feel like it's printed on a white tee.
Yep.
So
we were doing it more previously on the Diamondback when we had to do higher color counts where we couldn't be flashing things well,
it saves you too. It saves you like the double white or double spin in some cases.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just, and then you can wet the colors usually on top of it. So
that was the thing. We could run five colors on top and, not have to flash and not have any issues. So it's like printing directly onto the shirt every time.
Have you noticed any like opacity issues with that Wolflex?
What we've tried to do with any of the colors that have the fluorescence in them,
they all look like hell.
Yeah, those are the ones that we try to find the high opacity of that, or we'll try to find a color really close and then do our own match to it.
Yeah.
Because the fluorescence, the more we've played with it, like the more they suck.
Yeah.
So anything that has high fluorescence, we try to.
I'll send you a couple things that we've learned. 2 things I can tell you right off the bat. I can't remember what it is, but we've talked to certain people and manufacturers and stuff, and they said that pretty much you can switch from Amazing Base, which doesn't really have much opacity at all, to Triangle actually makes an opaque base that is interchangeable with the Amazing Base.
Okay.
And we did that and we noticed a difference. The other thing about the Triangle base is it's creamier. It's not like as thick, Amazing Base is super hard usually.
Amazing Base is awesome once you start printing it, it like turns into a super soft thing. But when
that's how the Triangle is out of the bucket though.
Okay.
So it like has like, if you're printing on like a lighter garment or whatever, it does have that like water base kind of like consistency.
The Amazing Base, that's your discharge?
No, Amazing Base is just a normal base, like a normal Wolflex mixing base.
It's like a neutral mixing base, it's like no color. It's a clear.
Yeah, and again, I chose it because it was 300 degree cure temp and under.
Right. So we were using the Epic system, which is the regular 320.
Yep.
And we used that when we very first started. We bought like a kit, a little quart kit or whatever it is. Like I said, like 11 years ago, and we've used that ever since. Like we've switched our whites and all these other things, but like our mixing system was always that. And then over the years too, talking to certain professionals or whatever in that area, one thing we found out is we were like, man, we're having really terrible issues with like opacity on like certain blues and certain yellows and stuff like that. And like you said, anything you mix that has a fluorescent in it, generally we call them fruit roll-up prints because that's what it looks like with a white underbase. It just looks like thin and weird. They told us to basically do 10% less base. So when you're mixing a color, just do 10% less base, and then you'll have a higher pigment load and it'll cure the same. Everything's fine. It'll just give you a little bit more opacity.
Yeah, and I know sometimes we go in and we'll see that a color actually has a high opacity option in the software. So we'll look at what the 2 options are, what they're being mixed with, and then a lot of times we end up picking that high opacity.
Yeah, well, we just recently did testing with Monarch stuff, and we basically told them like, hey, we're having these opacity issues or whatever. their big claim to fame was basically like, we have good high opacity inks for everything. Like,
I mean, when they came in and we had a guy come in, their national sales manager came in and talked with us. Mm-hmm. And I mean, at that point he was touting that like, you didn't have to have white underbases with their.
Is that Aaron?
Yeah. Aaron.
Yeah. Aaron's awesome.
Cause they have a low cure. They have two options that they have, the standard and also low cure, which you may love, under 300. I think it's like 280.
Yeah, it's like 270, 280, I think. But Aaron was a good dude. He was great to have in the shop.
He's just like super like print nerdy. You know what I mean? Like he knows all the technical stuff. But I told him straight up, I was like, hey, like say 288C, like that blue, I think it's 288. And we're like, every time we have to print this blue, it looks like shit. Like it just doesn't look good. We have to double hit it or do something with it to get it to look good. So they mixed 288, sent it to us. We did a side-by-side comparison. And it was like night and day difference of like opacity wise. And it was just like, I was like, all right. So like I said, I've used that system, that Epic system with Wilflex. So I kind of feel like they're trying to phase out, but they still have because so many people keep using it. So I just saw that as an opportunity to be like, all right, well, we're going to switch completely. So we just adopted the Monarch system.
What are you using for discharge?
CCI.
CCI. Where I got the Green Galaxy stuff at one point, and
it's basically CCI. I think
the Green Galaxy stuff. It used to be their old Ryonet version was CCI. The Green Galaxy is different, and I didn't like that system. I have it here, like a quart system that I can play with every once in a while. But I like the CCI stuff.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Are you using the Ubase?
Yeah, Ubase. Mm-hmm. We're not doing the bright base.
Yeah. So we use Ubase.
Oh wait, the Ubase is the Ubase is the white underbase one, right?
Yeah.
No, we mix up our own when we do a hybrid. So when we're running Discharge base, we'll run their regular D base and then like 15% D white and just mix those together. And that gives
you figured that pigment load is okay. Cause that's what we ran into, is that when we were not knowledgeable enough on Discharge, was that we just thought, we'll just use white Discharge for the underbase and then put Plastisol on top. The problem is the Plastisol won't stick to it. It's got too high of a pigment load. Yeah, so we would get customers that would be like, it all washed off. And we're like, yeah. And then we found out that you need to use a specific like underbase Discharge to let Plastisol go on top. But I've heard, like you said, there's a certain percentage of pigment load that you can still get away with.
Yeah, because our CCI rep has been in, and like he basically said the Ubase is basically like what we're creating anyways. They're just they're just making sure the pigment load isn't too high in it.
Right.
So we it's just getting Ubase would be another thing to order and have in here. So we do the mix and roll with it.
Yeah. But I feel like
a lot of times we won't double stroke. We'll stay away from double stroking though. Cause if you're up into the 20%, 25% and you double stroke, you might drop down too much, or we've found that you might drop down too much pigment and then have that same issue with wash off.
Yeah. Well, we're double, 2 strokes of Ubase just to make sure we're getting that like drived into the garment enough. Yep. But like Andy, I feel like you guys could use that like a ton. Like you don't put, you're not putting Diazo in your emulsion, so you wouldn't be able to, but
we actually, when we run Discharge, unless we're running something super, super long, which isn't typical, we just really do a post burn and use a chemical hardener, like a reclaimable chemical hardener. And we don't usually have too many problems.
Until what quantity? Like how many can you get out of that?
Like we can get a couple hundred. So, and that's double stroke. Our Discharge, if we're doing a Discharge base, we're usually single stroking, but if we're running just straight Discharge prints, we double stroke everything.
So the reason why we've played with Discharge, but the reason why we've never made it part of our system is just 100% cotton. Like we rarely print on 100% cotton. So many people want blends or tri blends or
there's a ton of blends. There's a ton of blends and tri-blends that'll work though.
I found out recently that the Bella Canvas 3001 CVCs, which is what we sell the most of,
right?
Most of those discharge.
How well?
Of them do.
Like really well.
A ton of them do.
Like really well. We did Heather Black recently, which I was like, this isn't going to look good. And it was just as bright as the 100% cotton. Like it was
Heather Black, charcoal Heathers, the Heather Navies, like those are ones that we push right away to discharge because it's double stroking off the press.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And so you come with a highlight white at the end?
No.
That's it.
No white. That's one screen.
One screen, double stroke. We put it in head, the last head so that we can, if you notice a little fuzzball or something, you can get it off quick instead of, instead of having to come around, and it's done. As I said, for like us, if we're doing like a 10 color print or whatever, it's a no brainer to be like, all right, let's do a 3001 and our base will be a discharge. So usually if you're doing like a 12 color print, it's probably like a lot of colors, a lot of surface area on the front of the shirt anyway. So by using the discharge base, you're going to have a softer print anyway. And then there's no highlight white needed. So it's like discharge base, wet on wet, probably 6 colors, flash, 6 colors for the other wet on wet, and it's done in one spin.
Yep.
So it's awesome. And then they look like shit when you take them off the press and you're like, well, I don't know. And then you run it through the dryer and it's super bright. Everything's great. Yep. Soft feel. So, and
when you're running, like when you're running straight discharge, what it looks like at the end of the dryer can be very, there's a lot of variable with pigment load, with the amount of discharge activator you have in it for certain colors. So there's a lot to it, and it takes a long time usually to get set up for us because we don't do it all the time. But when you're running the hybrid printing, like your plastisol is going to be the color it comes out, unless you're using a red. Sometimes like a red will pink out a little bit. But outside of that, like your colors are going to look the way they're intended to look.
What's funny is when you do a print where somebody wants it that like ivory, natural discharge color, and you just use natural like discharge base and you don't have the flash on the press at all, and you like double stroke it comes around, it just looks like a wet shirt.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I have no idea how this looks, and take it off, put it in the dryer, and it comes out. It's like bright ivory by the time it comes out the other side.
Yeah, and customers, really the only thing that I talk to customers about when we're running a discharge print instead of a plastic, like you said, a customer just wants a good print a lot of times. Yeah. So someone who wants a white print, I'll just let them know, like there's no guarantee it's going to be the brightest white, but it'll be a little bit bone white, but like
the trade-off is you get the soft shirt.
Yeah, you give them the trade-off and you tell them most people don't care about how white a white is. That we're screen printers. Our eye says, well, that's not white enough, but 99% of the population looks at it and are like, oh, cool, white print.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that the reason why we try to use Bella as much, and this isn't like a plug toward Bella, but it's kind of like they have the no over dye. They won't re-dye stuff to make it black because they have too many. And a lot of other brands do that, which screws you, because if you're like, let's do discharge for this job, and you use, like, we've had this happen a ton with Next Level. And it's like, all right, we got 200 Next Level shirts. And then we do the job and all the larges look like hell. Like the white print is purple. And it's like, oh,
you're saying because that shirt was purple previously?
They dyed it black because they had too many of, say, purple or whatever. And then when we discharge it doesn't bring it back to white. It brings it to like a whitish purple.
Yeah. And when we're running blacks, we've actually, I try not even to order the regular black, like the Bella Canvas vintage black discharges better than anything else that's out there. So as long as it's, again, the same thing, like if you put a black shirt and the vintage black next to each other, the vintage black is going to look a little grayer, but if it's just sitting on its own, it looks like a black shirt.
Right.
What's the CCI's odor like through the oven? What do you,
I mean, it's discharge.
Discharge smells like discharge, but the shirt shouldn't smell that bad at all if you did your job correctly and had it fully evaporate. By the time
you can bury that's actually how you tell if you did your job in the dryer. Is
if it stinks, it's not done.
Yeah. If you stick your face in the shirt and sniff it, you should not really smell any of that stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something to try. Like I said, the only thing I would watch out for is just have a good hard screen. The other thing that we learned years into it was using like R tape, like the thicker, we use the blue R tape, but like you can get it from other people. Like Ryan, I think sells one. It's green, but it's just that tape that you can't rip really. You have to cut. and then you layer it a certain way so like discharge won't seep under.
Yep. Most guys say do not tape any of the underside of the screen. Also, one, tape doesn't necessarily stick after the screen gets a little wet, but also it can help break down the screen because the screen doesn't breathe. So there's something with the emulsion breathing that you don't want to be covering something if you don't have to.
We usually just do like a step, like an inside tape and then an outside tape right over it on the inside of the screen, and that's all we really tape.
God, that would suck because you're going to discover that like 20 shirts in by the time it gets to the end of the dryer, and it's because you're not going to see a pinhole or whatever.
Right. That's the big downside to discharge is that if you do get a pinhole or you get a leak under a tape or something, you're not going to notice it until it comes out the other side of the dryer. So if you're doing a job that's 500 shirts, you're going to find out the hard way that like the first 250 look great and the other 250 have like a white dot over here.
And it's really your process. If you've got your process down to have that stuff taken care of in the beginning, then you're good. If you're a little lax in some of those places, it might not be the best option for you.
I feel like once we got the Unicoat and we were using the right tape method with our tape, I don't think we've had that issue. And I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want that to happen tomorrow. But yeah, I think just having a good consistent screen to where you're rarely ever having pinholes.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have that issue.
All right. CCI tomorrow. Calling for my sample. I think I might even have some back there. I'm an idiot. I think
try the Ubase. We use Ubase more than anything. Yeah, it's called Ubase. It's like U-base.
You don't have to science it or anything. You just open it up and
open it up. Well, you'll have to buy activator. So we just buy a Ubase in 5s because we use it so much. And the thing is, usually when we have a customer that wants white discharge, we have a 5 of white discharge too. But a lot of times we'll just use the Ubase, which isn't like as crazy bright as like white pigmented discharge, but like, I don't know. I just feel like we end up using that more. So I feel like I said, anytime you have a print, they're just like, this is going to be a shield on someone's chest. If we don't discharge underbase this, it's 100% better. It's like,
how does it work on fleece?
We don't ever use it on hoodies. I think you can. I just haven't tried it. Like a lot of hoodies, you need it to make sure that it's a cotton front or whatever.
Again, so what we found in that stuff is
it's the penetration, I feel like, is the problem with fleece. Yeah,
I mean we've run a bunch of fleece orders with discharge if it works, but you want either the full cotton face. Right. So like an independent has those a lot. Actually, Port & Company has some really nice fan favorite fleeces that have a full cotton face. Or you get into like those heathers that discharge anyways. Mm-hmm. So if the polyester in the garment is the white in the heather, then you're going to get a good discharge on a navy or a charcoal heather or some of those. You get really great discharge anyways.
Yeah. So again, screen printing again. What are you binging any TV shows right now?
No, we've been real busy at the shop the last couple of months. So I like get home and my kids are 7, 9, and 11. We get them to bed by 9 and I'm out like 15 minutes later.
Oh, so you go to bed early too?
I mean, my wife's like kidding me. Like, where did you go? Like, but I've been toast. So it's been good.
Dylan, 9 o'clock isn't early. Okay. Maybe for you.
I have a problem.
It's early. Yeah. You might have a problem.
I feel like it's just the thing though, is I get home from work. I do the dad stuff, I do the dinner and bedtime and whatever, and say they go to bed by like 9:30. It's like when they finally crash, it's like, all right, cool. Like, what can I do for myself? Like,
it's Dylan time.
I want to just relax and like zone the fuck out and not have employees coming to me being like, what's wrong with this? And it's like, kids being like, feed me, you dick. Like, I want something to do on my own. And usually for me, my favorite thing is like movies and stuff. So I usually try to like watch a movie or watch a show or something I'm doing. So I usually don't end up going to bed. I just started season 1 of West Wing. So I got a lot of episodes to go, but I've watched pretty much every major series I feel like on Netflix, and I don't know. I just started West Wing. So Which is funny because like I'm not a political person at all, but I just like watched 1 or 2 episodes and got sucked in.
Am I allowed to do some of the interviewing?
Yeah. Do it. Yeah.
Or is it? So Dylan, what's the deal with the Sasquatch?
Well,
like, are you guys like
I'm
deep into it?
I'm basically Sasquatch with no clothes on. So no, I don't know. Like I've always been into stuff like aliens and Sasquatch and just stuff like that has always piqued my interest. And since I'm the owner and when I go to like cool designers, usually my first idea that comes to mind is like, make me something with a Sasquatch or an alien or something.
Do you think they're real?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He lives out in
well, you're in upstate New York. You know what it's like up here.
Well, give me the, like, what are they?
What do you mean? They're
like, are they literally just like animals that nobody ever sees?
Dude, there's so much like lore stuff. It's funny. We kind of go deep on the Sasquatch movies. There are a lot, like a ton of like fan made or just like super B movie Sasquatch movies. So if you watch all these movies, everybody has a different take on like, and even like documentaries and stuff, because there's like a million of those too. If you look on Amazon, there's a lot of Sasquatch documentaries. A lot of them are like dudes that really, really believe in it are like, no, it's like, they're like protectors of like, you know, like different dimensions and like doors to other dimensions and like all this other stuff. And it's crazy. But my thing is like, I don't even think about it like that. I think about it like, the example I heard once from somebody that was like, so like struck home with me was kind of like, how often do you see like, I'm trying to think of something that's like near us that we would know, like a porcupine. Like how many times have you seen a porcupine in your life? Like in the wild, you know what I mean? Like really, how many times have you seen a porcupine?
Me, never.
Yeah, exactly. But they're there.
I've seen at the zoo.
Right. But you know, they're there, right? Like they live here. But the thing is for them, there might be like in our area, there might be like, I don't know how many, like a couple hundred or something.
Like 9-foot porcupines running around.
No, I'm just saying like there's an animal like a porcupine that probably is well populated and you living in that area have never seen one. Yeah. And I think I've seen one in my entire life. Think if there was a creature in like super massive natural forests that are like, you know, million acres or something. And there's like 4 of them. Like how often would you see one?
How often do they procreate?
Right. And how often do you see one? But if you did see one in the woods, are you going to be like ultra casual and be like, oh yeah, let me pull my phone out? You'd be like fucking terrified. You'd be like, yeah, there's no way. So that was my understanding of like, it seems like it could be a realistic thing.
So you're saying that you're not 100% believer, but you're not 100% non-believer. You're saying it could be.
I'm 99. I'm going to say I'm 99 because I'm so deep. 99
believer.
Yeah. But there's always that, you know, you never know. But I mean, it's just cool. It's just cool. Like I want it to be real. Like even if it wasn't real, I fucking want it to be real because it'd be awesome. There's just this huge dude in the forest. It's just like, don't fuck with me. But yeah, that's my take on this.
I take the same take on aliens and Sasquatch, that if they are real, I think they're definitely interdimensional beings. Yeah. They don't live in the forest. They come in and out.
Hell yeah. See,
no doubt.
You. Yeah.
I got one of my best buddies does a lot of listening to that kind of stuff. And he, there's a guy named David Politis, I think. You heard of him?
I don't know. I'm terrible with names. And
he does these documentaries about national forests and how people have just like disappear from them and all this like crazy stuff.
I just watched a documentary on that specific thing.
Yeah.
On Amazon.
Yeah. So
it's called like the 419 or something, I think it's called.
Okay.
Where it's like that, or it's like hunters that have hunted in the same area their entire life, all of a sudden just go missing and there's like no trace of them or like any of their stuff. You know, like they would normally like drop something or do this, and it's like they're just gone. Like
there's some really interesting things I think about in like the farmland in Pennsylvania somewhere where like they found like mutilated cows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That just would not have happened anywhere outside of something, you know,
right.
like that.
Again, us for the shop, it's like we all just love the fun of it, and we love the movies, and we love just like getting into that kind of thing. And near us, like even, I don't know how far it is from you, but Adirondack wise, there's Whitehall, New York, which is like a huge hot spot for like Sasquatch stuff. Well, last year, I think it was last year, it was either last year or the year before, we went to Whitehall because they have like a Sasquatch festival, and we were like, oh, let's go. This will be fun or whatever. So we drove there, went there, and we were thinking it was going to be kind of hokey. You know what I mean? People like us that were like, we love it, but like, we're like, all right. Everybody there was fucking dead serious. Like they're here. They've come up when I'm like washing dishes, I'll see them like walk through my yard, or like, you know, all these things. Like one brought their kid to our house and like we traded onions or something. I don't know, fucking, they're like all over it. And the movie we watched this past Thursday on our steak night was a movie about Sasquatches in Whitehall. So it was funny just like doing that whole thing and then watching a movie that somebody made about it. But
yeah, it's cool. Crazy
it's
stuff.
Just fun. Yeah.
I know a guy that worked for the government doing government things, and he literally like has a group of guys that they go on like being hunts, whether it's Sasquatch or like funky.
You can pay to be part of those groups and like go do that. I think it'd be fun someday until you really find one, and then it murders your whole crew.
You crap your pants and run.
Yeah, exactly. You always think you want to see it until you see it and it's not your friend. So do you have any other questions for us? I like being interviewed. Like we're always interviewing everybody else. It can be print related.
I mean, so from me, like you guys, both your shops are rocking and rolling. You've got multiple autos, you're cranking along. I think one of my big things that has stopped me from growing is just maybe the fear of bringing in the wrong people and having to manage the wrong people. And I've had some employees that didn't work out very well. What's the best way that you guys have found to search out and find potentially the next right guy? I've got, basically a production manager guy in-house that's awesome, really has changed the way the shop runs, because it's not me constantly in there doing everything all the time, telling people what to do, but he literally can function the shop. So
I feel like that's the holy grail of all print questions. But I'll let Andy take this one because he has twice as many people as I do.
And it doesn't have to be anything amazing. Just like, what are some of the steps that you took?
As far as how we added people, where we found them.
Yeah.
I think it's changed over the years. Initially, actually, I found a few on Craigslist. I know that's a weird spot, but people. They
were looking for love and found a shirt company.
That's right. But
he bought them from a shipping container.
I think that used to be a thing. Every once in a while I try Facebook ad. You can do that and post a job, and you can say people who like us, and also their friends, you know what I mean? And so maybe you have somebody in common in that network. But lately, the past 2 hires, one came off of a referral from somebody already that worked here. And I like that a lot because, that person who vouches essentially is vouching for that person and saying, yeah, they can come work here. They know them a little bit anyway. Maybe they never worked with them, and that could be a different, that could not work out, I suppose. But they know this person and they say, yeah, they're cool to work here. And so that's worked out. And usually the people who are coming don't have any experience actually in screen printing. And I'm hiring not for your experience in screen printing or experience as a graphic artist or anything like that. I'm hiring for who you are, like who you are to talk to. I meet with somebody 3 times, and so and you try and take your best guess after that 3rd time. And so I'm trying to hire just a positivity. Are you a positive person? Are you communicating while you're here? And I asked them after their trial day, which is their 2nd time I've met them. I say, okay, cool. What'd you think of it? And I listen really close to what they have to say. And then I give them my card and I say, well, email me, later tonight while it's fresh on your mind, like what your, if you want to work here, what your thoughts are. And so, oh my God, I got the greatest, like 2 times ago, I got 6 paragraphs from somebody of what they thought about, the shop when they were here that day. And so, that worked out really well. As far as growing though, from your space that you have right now, you said there's you and then 3 others.
Yeah.
Sometimes your wife, right? So,
yep.
I mean, that sounds perfect for production right now. Anyway, I mean, you have 1 auto and a manual. You've got 1 person on a manual and a 3-person team on the auto, or sometimes maybe just 2. Especially on that Cobra. So what do you do for do you have an iMimage, or what do you do for do you use film? How do you make screen?
No, we use film, and then we actually took our tri-lock system. I don't know if you've seen the guys that have like basically made their tri-lock system into where you don't use the carrier sheets and you drop the film right onto the screen. So we actually took the is it called the master frame, right?
Yeah.
We took the master frame, you flip it over, and you build it onto a light table, basically. So we're locking our screen onto the master frame flipped over, and then we have a grid underneath, and on a light table that we're putting our films directly onto the screen, taping on the screen, and then taking it over to the exposure unit. So we're carrier sheetless.
Got it.
So
you're having decent registration with that.
We were getting really good with the Diamondback, where we had to play with the head clamps or the screen clamps we learned the little nuances of what didn't move the screen around. Mm-hmm. But as we're still messing a little bit with our off contact and really trying to dial it in after install. But we're getting great success in terms of I think we're spot on the screens. It's just how do we hold the frame while we're locking? How do we, where exactly are we positioning it in the screen frame? I think more of our issue has been just in the lockdown more so than on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to say the reason why I asked that is because having a CTS or a tri-sync system or a tri-lock system and now your press, now your 10 color is like having 2 autos, because you went from I had the same conversation. This is part of the same conversation I had with my kid this morning, is that they're going from the 6 color without any tri-lock system to a press to a 10 color or possibly even a 12 color with an iMimage. And I said, that's super important, because you're essentially going from 1 press to 2 presses, because you're going to double your production. People don't realize that, like how much time they're going to save. Literally, I mean, it's pretty rare. I would say 90% of the time stuff tri-syncs for us. I ran the Cobra on 3 days last week. 3 of the days, every job I set up, I didn't touch. Like I did not touch the micros. And people, I don't think they believe that, for whatever reason, and they don't invest.
Yeah.
And they don't, because it's expensive, it's expensive to buy this stuff. Yeah. They don't realize that, well, it's expensive not to have it. It's expensive to spend an hour registering a 4 or 5, 6 color job. I'm coming up with a video that I did for M&R that I don't know if I want to give this away, but I did. My challenge is I have 6 screens and 100 shirts, and how long does that take? And when I ask people that, and I say, well, how long you think it's going to take you to print 100 shirts? To set up 6 screens, put squeegees and flood bars in, put the ink in, register it, and then print 100 shirts. How long is that going to take you? And I usually get around the same amount of time for the answer, and I just smile, because the video that's coming out just blows that away. And so my intention was to make that video was to show how easy the Cobra is to work with, and then add in this fact. Like when I set up jobs on the Cobra, since it's a 12 color, I'll set up 2 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put my tri-lock palette on. I'm going to set up this 2 color, and I'm going to set up this 3 color at the same time, or maybe the front and the back, get set up at the same time. And what's great about the Cobra is, or also Dylan's Gauntlet, is that it's not going to come up and touch It just, since it's a flat indexer, it just stays down. Never, you don't fuck up your, or like if you have hoodies on there, you're not touching the screen. You don't have to tape.
That's been huge for us.
Yeah. Like normally on our Sportsmans, we have to get under there and tape off the back of a screen if we leave a screen up or whatever. Well, you don't have to do that on the Cobra. So how fast is it that you can set up the fronts and the backs of a shirt the same time, registered, and just go? Sometimes you have to trade the squeegees. Sometimes I just set up squeegee fill bars anyway, for both the front and the back. But anyway, my answer to that is, which is a long-winded answer, was that you just got yourself into a spot. You basically have two presses, You basically have two autos because you have this tri-lock system. You have a 10 color now that you're going to be able to go around once more often instead of sometimes going into revolver mode, previously. So
yeah, the only time we've actually revolved since having the press was when we had like a white print 36 shirts and we were like, let's not make two screens. Let's just revolve it.
Right.
And that's funny too, because we had basically like two Sportsmans before we got the Gauntlet, and we were used to, with any job, using revolver mode. Like we were very used to using it. And when we got the Gauntlet, we kept asking, like when they were here setting it up and training, we were like, show us how to use revolver. And he's like, why the hell would you want to use a revolver? And we're like, what do you mean? Like, you're going to have to. He's like, you're not. He's like, rarely are you going to have to use revolver. And it was funny because like, we were just like, wow, he's kind of like, being a dick about this. But, like we appreciate it because like if we don't have to use revolver, we don't have to use revolver. And then we ended up having like an issue with the press, like technology wise, something with the program or whatever, because it was a brand new press, with the revolver mode. So like we ended up having to use it once and something wasn't right, called tech service. And like the tech we got on the phone, we're like, yeah, we're trying to do this thing in revolver. And very first thing he like stops me. He's like, what the hell are you using a revolver for? And I'm just like, why is everybody against using revolver on this press? But then once we got using it, it's like, again, it's like rare that we have to double spin anything. Like I said, we're doing 10, 12 color prints, one spin. And that's like going from like an 8 color Sportsman to where it was like, just to have clean prints or multiple flash, like whatever. We only had one flash on the press. And it's like, you'd have to do like 3-4 spins or something. And then on this press now it's like one spin, 12 color. It's just like, holy shit. Like, the time we're saving on that is crazy. And back to Andy's point about the CTS stuff is like, I'm not at all a shop that's like counting time where I'm like, seconds matter and all this other stuff. Like I know there's a lot of shops that are like, everything has got to be perfect, like time wise, so we can get X amount of jobs done a day. But once we got the CTS in there, like he said, like no job, no matter how many colors it is set up in like minutes.
Yeah.
Versus like back when we were doing film, it's like, this one job, we were trying to line up the registration marks. It took him like an hour and a half to get that job fully registered. And it's like, that doesn't exist anymore. And we've had this conversation before, me and Andy, but like we made the decision after we got the Gauntlet actually to stop putting registration marks on any of our screens just because it was wasting time and wasting tape.
We don't have any reg marks.
We don't fucking register anything anymore because usually if something's out at all, it's like one color and it's obvious. It's like, the yellow's out like 1/8 of an inch or something. Like put it back in. And then
we tape over our reg marks on the top. We never use them other than to get the film in the right place on the screen.
Right. But like we were having the conversation earlier about discharge. It's like, if we don't have registration marks at all, that's one less thing we have to worry about discharge seeping under or doing. So now it's like just the print is what's in the screen.
And if something's out, it's not the tri-lock's fault.
Right. It's usually like a shitty screen or
it's poor tension,
human error or something.
Yeah. And for us, it's been, we do have the way that it's set up when you put the screen in the jig, you definitely have to make sure you pull it off to the side. Sometimes the bottom stop, it'll be a little bit of space. So you got to make sure you grab that. So that sometimes is our issue. If we have an issue, is just the biggest thing we had not locking it in right.
Yeah. Cause we were using the tri-lock when we had film too. And the biggest problem we had is like Brian's super meticular who would like do the carrier sheets, but it's like, you're using film and it's like, sometimes the film's slightly warped or you would have an issue with him like taping or, having a bad day and not like perfectly lining it up and like all this other stuff. So like, I feel like more often than not, it would be like every job or every other job, we would have to do some fixing. we'd have to do micros here, micros there. Yeah, it's way better. It's still faster. But then, like I said, once you get CTS and it's like everything's perfectly lined up because nobody's touching it. It's like night and day. It's like Randy will come in here and be like, I had to tweak this one. It's like, what do you mean? Like, that used to be every day. And now it's like, oh, I had to mess with this one. Your screen was shitty or something. It's like, dude, calm down.
So because you have this Trilock already in your system that works really well, will you ever go to an iMimage or?
No, I think I would. I definitely would when it's time. Our space is very limited. So our dark room is literally a closet that I walk from my office into the exposure room through. So we don't really have a whole lot of space for one right now. And we're now getting to the place, if we continue rolling as we are, that, you get into the place there, it makes sense. Like Chris has always told me, like, unless you're doing 20 to 30 screens a day, it doesn't even make sense to have one.
Right. Yeah.
So, and, as you get into higher color counts, like we spend most of our time running 1 to 3 color jobs.
Right.
But
so it might not make sense for you yet.
Well, probably not yet. But the thing is just like you said, it was very hard to find anything about us online. When COVID hit, we just looked at it and said, as we've been, basically, I've been Eric, the screen printer, and everybody know, hey, there's this guy, Eric. They like, go to Eric for shirts. We're not on a main road. We're off in down an industrial road. We don't have a retail storefront that people can walk in. So if you don't know us, you don't know us. Mm. And when COVID hit, we realized, like, holy crap, like, you don't know us, like, we don't exist. So
yeah. Well, that was a question I had for you, was like, why? And this is a weird, tough one for me, just because it's how I've always done business, is social media. Because like when I very first started my first company, it was when MySpace first started. So that was the only thing I knew, is like, get online, hit up forums or, message boards or whatever for shows, and MySpace. That was like how I got business. So like, how have you've just done local word of mouth until now?
Yep. That's basically all it's been. And for me, it's always been, like I said, the work-life balance that, I would love to be cranking and, rolling in it and, moving into a new house and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when I started the business, I talked to a bunch of people, and, their deal was always like, oh man, like I was successful and I made it. And, my kids loved it. I had plenty of time with them. And then you go talk to their kids, and their kids would be like, yeah, my dad was never around. So I always wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to push the business to the place that I was never going to be around. Yeah. And for me, again, it was getting the right people to help. So, I'm a doer. So if it needs to get done and someone's not doing it, I'm just going to jump in and do it. And I think I do that to a detriment sometimes. So it's really, learning that I need to allow other people to do, and my staff is amazing right now. So, getting people in key places, taking care of them so that they can also, use it. I want people to come here, work, and make their life work, not work so that they can, they should be working so that they can go out and live life, not living life so they can come to work.
I feel like Andy has that philosophy.
Yeah, maybe not always. It's when I started this, though, you have to remember, like, I didn't have those obligations, and so it was a little bit different. If I started this and I had young kids, and then I would probably be in the same boat. But I don't know that that size and that you're at right now, and that culture and how tight you guys sound like you are, that's a good spot. And then you add where I've never, probably to my fault, never added unless I really, really, really need it, So,
and I'm the same way. I feel like you shouldn't add unless you really need it. I feel like if you add and add and add, it's just more stress and more headaches and more everything else. Like, I feel like, and I've talked about this a few times too, like I'm where I want to be right now. Like, I've hit this is what I want to do. The only thing I'm going to do differently now is just like try to make the most efficient out of everything I have. Like, maybe a little bit more shop space, figure things out to where everything flows really, really nicely. and then I'm done. Like I'm going to keep doing this until I can't do it anymore. But yeah, so, like you said,
when you say flow, I think flow's been huge for us in previously before we opened up the space behind me, like everything was crossing back and forth all over the place. And now, we are shirts in, don't touch anything close to the press until they go back out. Mm-hmm. And we've got a really nice flow now for screens. They do, screens have a loop and shirts have a loop, and they only touch on the press.
I feel like we were really comfortable with our flow when we had the 2 8 colors. And then as soon as we got the Gauntlet, which we really wanted because we have a lot of customers that want like high color count and all this other stuff, it just took up so much space. Like it fits, but it got rid of that like safe space you had where you could be like, oh, I could put a couple pallets here, or I can roll this through here. And now it's like, I don't have that.
Well, you also have in looking at your Instagram, you also have like a dryer that cuts your shop straight in half, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So you can't move stuff around.
Like our building is super long. Like it's really, really long, but it's really narrow. Like we're only dealing with 40 feet wide. Like our entire building is 40 feet wide. And the dryer is like 35 feet wide. So it's like I literally have enough room on the infeed to just a human being to walk by it.
Yep.
Like you can't put a cart through there. You can just like walk through there. And then on the other side, the unload, I would love to have another 4 feet just for like shirts to cool down before they fall in the bucket or whatever. I don't have that. I literally have the hood and it stops. Like that's the end of it. And then I have like a flat table for people to lay shirts out, and the catcher bins under the dryer. And that's it. So it literally cuts the shop in half, like you said.
We had 2 feet at the end of our dryer for someone just to stand and unload shirts previously.
Yeah.
So our space,
I have to move the table out of the way and move the carts out of the way if I have to bring a pallet to the other press.
Yeah. The guys that
move stuff, it sucks.
The guys that bought my old press, they're actually building a new building, and I was talking through things with them, and they said, hey, can you look at my shop layout? Because they actually have never screen printed. They got DTG system. And that's all they've done. And
so they're in for a world of hurt then?
They're going straight into auto. So they were trying to figure out their shop as to they said they had these 4 foot wide by 8 foot long tables that they used for everything, and they rolled around the shop. And they were literally trying to figure out their shop by where the tables could move. And at one point I just looked at them, I go, hey guys, did you think of maybe not using those tables and just getting some carts, and then you can do anything you want at your shop? And they're like, wow, that's actually a good idea. So what are the things in our mind? And that's the same thing for me with hiring or for anything else. What are the things that we're limiting ourselves with that we don't even realize we're limiting ourselves because we just put ourselves in a box somewhere?
Yeah. And that's what's funny about like this podcast, that we get people all the time that message us and are like, thanks so much for just doing real talk and all this other stuff. It's the same thing, same mentality that I have, where I'm anytime I travel anywhere or do anything, first thing I do is I look up the local shops. I'm like, who's around that I can go say hey to or stop into? And it's like you said, if I came to your shop tomorrow and I just started walking through, I'd be like, hey, that's cool that you got this here, but what have you thought about laying it out this way? And it's just having a fresh set of eyes of somebody who knows the situation you're in.
Yep.
To be why aren't you doing it this way? And you're just oh, I never even thought of that.
Yep.
So it's huge benefit of that.
You know who texted me on Friday was Tyler TC Screen Printing. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, have you ever thought about having somebody come in another screen printer come in your shop for 2 days? First day, they just sit there observation, just to evaluate you, and so at the end of it, they say, okay, look, just like you said, how you do this right here, why do you do it that way? Here's another way to do it. And then you kind of trade, he does that, no charge, you know what I mean? He just comes in and does that. And then I go to his shop and try to provide value.
I think that's awesome. I think one thing that I found in this industry, even when I went to buy my first auto, everyone was real hush hush about how you do things and, how much stuff cost and what this was and what that was. And I feel like the industry with stuff like you guys are doing is opening up, where it's not just the guys on YouTube that are, even your Ryanets, who when I started, Ryan was the only one putting videos out, but a bunch of his stuff he was a new printer too. So I watched some of his stuff and I was like, I would never do it that way, but he's telling everybody else to do it that way. But there's nothing wrong with that. But as we learn and grow and have more outlets like this where guys are talking, and that's where the industry can grow. And I'm just super open, super honest. There's no reason to hide stuff. So that's one of the things that we intended to do with our Instagram feed when we started it up was, stuff like the double bevel squeegees. Like nobody knows about that stuff, like very rarely, but that made a huge difference in our shop. So at some point our desire is to start putting out some videos on there. So, people can just see what we do and they can take it or they can leave it. Whatever they want to do, but at least that information's out there. Cause when I said double bevel squeegee, I mean, Andy, you were like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? So I think there's a lot of stuff that, just that sharing of information, because the only way you would get somebody that come into your shop and tell you what you're doing is to hire some consultant that, costs $1,500, $2,500 to fly into your shop and sit there for 2 days and tell you how to do things. And now you can do stuff like this and really work through things.
Yeah. It's like, I like having you on here. Like, I just wanted to know exactly where in Buffalo you were. So next time I'm through there, I can burn your shop to the ground. And then just one
insurance money, I'll get a new shop and
right. So exactly. And then it's a cycle.
Yeah.
But no, I've always had people always ask certain people I'm friends with are like, why do you tell so many people like this? It's just going to be more competition. And it's like, dude, really, if you think about it, how many of these people that you tell all the, out of the population of screen printers are if you give out certain information, it's really the only ones that are going to take anything and do anything with it are the doers, the dudes who just are passionate about it and want to do it anyway. It's not like we're giving away secrets to everything. It's anything we talk about is on the internet.
It's exactly
all you do is pay attention.
I think a good analogy is like a chef. He can give you his recipe, how to make chili, but you're going to take that recipe and make it your own way. Just because you have a recipe doesn't mean that you're going to do it exactly like it or follow the instructions. You might just, I like carrots in my chili. So it's, you kind of make it your own way.
But there's just so many variables to everything that it's no matter how much information you took from anybody, it's not going to end up exactly the same way, or you're not going to instantly have as much success with your marketing and your sales as the next guy. Cause 99% of that is relationships. It's who you know and who you talk to.
100%. Most of our business is not because we're a great screen printer. That really doesn't even matter.
That's debatable.
That is debatable, but especially after listening to you and all my stuff's out of registration. I've never tried Discharge. What's wrong with me? But it's because it's our customer service, really, and that's actually harder than screen printing.
Yeah,
and so I've spent a lot of years trying to develop relationships. And
well, the thing is you could be the fucking best screen printer. You could be a super sciencey whiz screen printer and not be good with people and have no sales coming in the door.
So and that's exactly how my business has been able to survive for 20 years and not be on the internet it's just the relationships that I've built with my customers are strong relationships, and the relationships that don't work out, you don't let customers walk all over you. You let them know the truth. You tell them where you're at. And if they don't want to come to you anymore, they can find the guy down the street that's going to be even harder to deal with. Mm-hmm. But that's the same thing with when you're talking about giving out information, customers, everybody's not going to do, like you said, the relationship thing. Everyone's not going to print really well. But if you can bring those things together, I can tell, all of my customers that you can go try the guy down the street and 2 weeks later, they're going to be back.
Mm-hmm. That's honestly my favorite thing to do. When somebody comes to you and you can tell in their tone that they're just shopping around, when they give you their demands and then you're just you honestly are straight up nah. They're well, I'll go to so-and-so down the road. My favorite thing is to say, then go. Gives me chills to be fuck you, just go. And then like you said, a month later, they'll hit you up again and be oh, how much was it? Oh, okay. Yep. Do you take cards, right? And then
it never even happened.
They're tail between their legs. I'll take yours now. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, my big thing is treat people right. Like we treat our customers right. I try to treat my employees right. Like it's building those relationships that, like I always say about my employees, is building relationships where I don't tell my employees what to do. Like if I needed my employees to run through a wall, I don't want to say, hey, run through that wall for me. I want me to say, hey, I need someone to run through the wall. And like 4 of them, well, I only have 3, but 4 of them, they raise their hand and like me first,
So you're a cult leader.
Well,
you want them to think it's their idea to run through the wall. I get it.
So Dylan, we have an Inksoft question, and it's yours. You thought of this one. It's a real good one. So what you got?
What's your favorite pie?
Chocolate peanut butter.
Chocolate peanut butter?
That's good. Not bad.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a pie. I didn't even know.
Chocolate peanut butter pie? I mean, they can do it also.
Is that a Buffalo
ways.
thing too?
No.
That's just a good human thing.
Yeah. I mean, were you expecting
chocolate
a fruit
peanut
or a
butter
vegetable? Chicken?
Well, we were hoping it wasn't pumpkin because pumpkin's gross.
False, not true. Pumpkin's good.
My favorite is apple. Just straight up American apple pie. That's my favorite.
Dylan, you guys have Wegmans down there. They got an amazing
I'm going to Wegmans when this is over.
They actually have individual chocolate peanut butter pies.
That doesn't make sense. What do you mean chocolate peanut? So what is it? Just like pudding or something?
It's like a mousse and a peanut buttery goodness, and then a lot of white creamy stuff on top.
Stop there.
My wife told me no matter what I do, just don't go to the wrong place.
Yeah. We're trying to keep ourselves together a little bit. What are some of your favorite like podcasts and books and stuff to get you inspired?
Honestly, I am the worst at all that stuff. Like when I was basically here by myself, I podcasted all the time, just listen to sports stuff, we're very incorporated into the faith-based community in our area. So would listen to a lot of stuff like that. But right now it's like be at the shop, run the shop, get home, try not to get enveloped into Instagram or something like that. So I spend time with my kids, and when they go to bed, hopefully I get some time with my wife and back in the morning. So
sounds like a good life.
Probably pretty boring in that way, but like
just devouring chocolate peanut butter pies.
I mean, a big thing for me is trying to get, I was a competitive athlete back in the day, and I let myself go a little bit. So
are you back running?
What's that?
Are you back running?
I actually do a lot of biking now. So mostly in my house on our Nordic track bike. So I bike all over the world.
Are you one of those dudes that has the bike with the TV screen?
Yeah, it's awesome. I biked in Japan on Mount Fuji today.
I saw recently, I don't remember what, it was probably like a YouTube ad for, I think it was Nordic Track, where they have the new one where the bike tilts.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's what we have.
That's what you have?
Yeah. So as you're going, like you start going up a mountain, and it goes up and it changes the resistance, and it's like awesome. You're on a bike.
I'd love to like walk into your house and just see you full bore, like sideways, like pedaling really hard.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah. Well, hey man, thanks for doing this with us.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
I'll have to swing by next time I'm in Buffalo. I mean, you're really not that far away, like 3 hours.
And I always say anybody's welcome in my shop. So
yeah, same for you. If you come through this way, stop by and say hey.
Yeah, if you're ever in St. Louis, stop. Yeah,
nobody wants to go there.
I used to do it. I used to be there all the time, but my grandparents lived in Kansas, so we come through St. Louis multiple times a year going to see them. So
just never get off the highway. Just keep going.
Floor it through here.
Yeah.
Congrats on the Cobra.
Yeah, thank you. And
what number do you have?
We got number 6. So we actually got
he was number 2 or something.
I thought it was number 3. That must have been Talk Shirty.
No, Talk Shirty
was number 3, and we had ours installed before theirs. But I think we had the option to get one that was already built on M&R's floor, and we needed the smaller size. So
okay,
we had to wait on that.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, it's awesome. Love communicating, meeting people, having fun, and building knowledge. So it's great.
Yeah. Supposed to be getting those reg triangles too. Jimmy said he called you.
I talked to him on Friday, so we had a good conversation. We actually don't have all the holes at every head to put them on, so I'm sure they'll figure something out. But if not, we'll develop something.
That reminds me, Andy, because when I was at your place, I was looking at your press. I know yours is like the beta one, so it might not have all the things. But when I went and saw Ron, there was things on his that you don't have that I was like, oh, I wonder if, like, I can see on yours, you have the like coated straps on top of the press. Like it's got like
they're pretty awesome.
On it. Yeah, you don't have that, do you, Andy?
I do not. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a plastic. It's like a plastic over them, so they can't get any ink on it. You just wipe it off.
And I've been bugging M&R for probably like 6 years about that. Like anytime I talk to anybody, I'm like, dude, why do you guys not have this? Like anytime we like, it's not on purpose, but like you have a cup of ink and you accidentally like hit it, like you're never getting.
It's like this mesh or whatever. That's really
right. You are never getting ink out of it. And I noticed they did that. And the other thing I noticed that Ron had was the dot and the dash on when you put the squeegees and flood bars in.
I've got that.
Where it perfectly lines it in the middle.
That's crazy great, right? Have you taken advantage of that? Yeah. So there's a dot on the bar of the flood and the squeegee, and then there's a line and like they routed it.
Yeah. So you can just perfectly set it up every time.
Yeah, you never have to
look at it.
Yeah. And we didn't have the no shirt detector. So that's been awesome to have that on, and we got a quick clamp along with it. So,
Oh yeah.
That we'll be excited to not have to clean all the knobs and stuff on the squeegees.
Well, Jimmy, he developed that press and he's a good contact to have. And he said he's going to get you those reg triangles. And I said if he called you, that it'd be real special because he was he scored. He's in hockey. He went to Vegas and he was the leading scorer on their team. And so he's basically pro. He's basically a pro hockey player. Also,
I basically I talked to a professional athlete is what you're saying.
You did. So he's going to hook you up.
That's cool. Thank you for that.
Have a good Sunday.
Yeah, good talking to you guys.
See you, man.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye-bye.